The fall begins. My father-in-law fired me. My wife disowned me. They had no idea who I really was. My name is Nathan Caldwell. I was 36 when everything in my life collapsed like a house built on hollow ground. I worked for the Montgomery Group, an old, powerful East Coast construction firm run by my father-in-law, Richard Montgomery. My wife, Elise, was his only daughter. We'd been married for almost 6 years when the ground beneath me began to shift. It started quietly. One morning, Richard called me in his office. He didn't even look up from his desk. "Nathan," he said flatly, "we're letting you go." I stood there in silence, confused. "Excuse me." He finally looked at me, but there wasn't even a flicker of regret in his cold gray eyes. "We've decided to take the company in a new direction. You'll be given a severance package." That's all. I wasn't just an employee. I had given 10 years to that company. I'd brought in clients, led impossible projects, sacrificed birthdays, holidays, nights. I thought I was family. But Richard made it clear I was never family. Not really. I remember leaving the building in a daze, my box of things in my arms, my nameplate buried under paperwork and shame. Elise didn't pick up my call. We're the next 3. By the time I got home, she was already waiting. She didn't ask why I was home early. Didn't ask what happened. She just stared at me with those cold, distant eyes, like I was a stranger. "I think you should go, Nathan," she said. I blinked. "What?" My father told me everything. Everything about what? I asked, stunned. "About what you've been doing. The misuse of company funds. The inappropriate behavior with staff. The reason they fired you." It hit me like a punch to the gut. Lies. All of it. "What are you talking about? That's not true." She folded her arms. "You're not the man I thought you were. Elise, listen to me." But she turned away. Just like that. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat in my car in the driveway, watching the lights go out in the house we bought together, the home I built with my bare hands. I thought I'd be spending the rest of my life with her. Now I was shut out like garbage on the curb. But I wasn't going to break, because there were too many questions. Too many things that didn't make sense. And I knew one thing for sure. They were hiding something. The house of smoke. Everyone thought I was finished. But I hadn't even started. After Elise told me to leave, I moved into a crummy motel near the edge of town. It smelled like bleach and old sweat, but it was quiet, and most importantly, anonymous. I spent days going over every conversation, every meeting, every spreadsheet from my time at Montgomery Group. I was trying to figure out how they set me up, because that's what it was. A setup. I didn't misuse funds. I didn't harass anyone. And I sure as hell wasn't incompetent. I wasn't perfect, but I was loyal. Always had been. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd been blind. Richard had never accepted me. He tolerated me. Elise always said he was just protective. But now I could see he was planning this for months. And Elise, was she in on it? That question haunted me. I couldn't shake the feeling that she knew something. That this wasn't just her being hurt or confused. It was too fast, too clean. The day I got fired, she had already made up her mind. And the way she looked at me, like she'd been waiting for an excuse. I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. Still, I had no proof. No idea where to start. So I went back to the only thing I had left, my instincts. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Andrew, an old friend who still worked at Montgomery. We hadn't talked in months. "I heard what happened, man," he said quietly. "They made you out to be some kind of monster." "You don't believe it?" "Of course not. Listen, I probably shouldn't say this, but something weird's going on. Right after you got fired, your position was filled by someone from Atlanta. No interview, no announcement." I frowned. "Do you have a name?" He hesitated. "You're not going to believe it. Try me. Her name is Dana Whitaker." My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard that name in 10 years. Dana and I went to college together. We had a brief, messy fling when Elise and I were on a break. She was brilliant, manipulative, and vindictive as hell. I ended it when Elise and I got back together. Dana didn't take it well. But what the hell was she doing at Montgomery? "Do you think Richard knows about our history?" I asked Andrew. "I don't know. But that's not the only thing. There's more shady stuff. Dana suddenly got influence. People are scared of her. And Elise, she's been coming around the office more." "Elise?" I repeated. "Yeah, she's been working with Dana, helping with strategy." That was the moment everything shifted. My wife wasn't just believing lies. She was helping create them. I dug deeper. I tracked down Dana's old social media profiles. Most were scrubbed clean, but I found a photo on a friend's page. From 2 years ago, it was Dana, smiling, with Elise, on a yacht in Miami. They knew each other. They always knew each other. That's when the paranoia set in. How much of my life was a lie? Was Elise ever really mine? But before I could spiral, something else happened, something that forced me to stop thinking and start preparing. I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Richard, Elise, Donna, together, at a private fundraiser. From 6 months before I was fired. On the back, someone had scribbled in Sharpie. Start digging. Your blood isn't the only one on their hands. The dirt beneath their shoes. The truth wasn't just buried. It was cemented in secrets. I stared at that photo for hours. Richard, Elise, Donna. The fundraiser was hosted by a biotech firm, LeClaire Systems, a company I had personally advised Richard to avoid 3 years ago after discovering they were under federal scrutiny for embezzlement and insider trading. He nodded, thanked me for doing my homework, and said, "We don't do business with snakes." But there he was, smiling with them, in public, and that note on the back, "Your blood isn't the only one on their hands." That line hit different, because it meant someone else had been hurt. Or worse, I didn't know where to begin. But the LeClaire connection was a start. I started pulling records, anything public I could find, lawsuits, news articles, donor lists. I knew I was pushing legal lines, but I didn't care. I had nothing to lose. Then I found it. An old report buried in a trade journal from 4 years ago. A minor engineer named Samuel Keating, fired from LeClaire Systems under suspicious circumstances. 2 months later, he was found dead. Car crash. Ruled accidental. But the details didn't add up. His brakes failed, on a car that had just come out of the shop. His autopsy showed trace sedatives in his system. His wife filed a wrongful death suit against LeClaire, then withdrew it without explanation a week later. She vanished after that. I tracked her down. It took days. She was living under a new name in a remote part of Oregon. I called, didn't expect a response. But she answered. "Who gave you this number?" she asked instantly. "I'm not a reporter. I'm not a cop. My name's Nathan Caldwell. I think I'm being framed by Richard Montgomery and a woman named Dana Whitaker. I think you know what they did to your husband." She was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "You need to be careful. They cover their tracks. They ruin people. They don't stop. What happened to Sam?" I asked. "They used him. He found something in the data. Dana was helping move illegal funds through LeClaire's offshore branches. He tried to report it. The week before he died, he told me he felt like someone was following him. And you dropped the case? They offer me a deal. Money. Silence. Disappear. Or disappear forever." I couldn't breathe. It was so much bigger than me. This wasn't just about jealousy or company politics. This was corruption. Criminal. Dangerous. And Elise. Elise was tied to it. Whether she was an accomplice or a pawn, I didn't know yet. But I knew this. I had to get back into that world. I showed up at Montgomery Group's charity gala, dressed in a tailored suit. I knew I'd draw stares. Whispers. Security hesitated, but I'd RSVP'd under an alias. Richard and Dana didn't see me at first, but Elise did. Our eyes met across the ballroom, and for the first time in weeks, she looked afraid. I approached her slowly, drink in hand. "Miss me?" I asked softly. "Nathan, you need to go. You can't be here." "Why? Afraid I'll ruin the party? Or expose your secrets?" "Don't do this," she said under her breath. "You don't know what you're walking into." I leaned closer. "Oh, I think I do. I know about LeClaire. About Sam Keating. About Dana. You. And I. We're going to talk." Before she could respond, Dana approached. "Nathan," she said coolly, "I suggest you leave. Before someone makes you." I turned to her. Smiled. I already left once. This time, I'm staying. I walked away before they could react. Because now the seed was planted. They were scared. I could see it in their eyes. And fear, like truth, spreads fast. Back at my motel, I found a new envelope slipped under my door. Inside, a USB drive. A note. "You're getting close. Use this wisely." I plugged it into my burner laptop. There were files. Bank records. Correspondence. recordings, including one audio file labeled Elise_call_2-14. I clicked play. Her voice came through, shaky low. I don't know how much longer I can do this. He doesn't deserve it. Nathan's not the enemy. He's never been. Then Dana's voice, cold and sharp. You want your inheritance, Elise? Then stop crying and play your part. Love in ashes. What do you do when the woman you love becomes the weapon used to destroy you? I played the recording 10 more times. Each time, it hurt in a different way. Elise's voice, the guilt, the hesitation, was real. She wasn't the cold, robotic version of herself I'd seen in the driveway that night. She was scared, cornered, but still, she chose to obey Dana. She chose to sell me out. And for what? Money? Power? Her father's validation? I stared at the wall in my motel room. I hadn't cried since my mother's funeral when I was 19. But that night, my chest cracked open. Not because I lost my job or my name, but because I lost her. The version of Elise I once believed in. But grief couldn't last forever. Because now I had something Dana and Richard didn't know I had. Proof. And someone out there wanted me to have it. I reached back out to Andrew. He didn't want to meet at first. He said things at the company had gotten tense. Quiet meetings, closed doors, a new wave of layoffs. They're gutting the company, he said. Preparing for something big. Like a buyout? No, more like a cleanup. He finally agreed to meet, after hours, in the park where there were no cameras. He brought a briefcase. You didn't get this from me, he said. You never saw me. Inside were more files. Hard copies. Printouts from company servers, flagged correspondence, deleted memos. One name popped up again and again. Project Helix. It sounded like a biotech project. But the more I read, the more twisted it became. They were laundering investments into a medical tech firm testing illegal, unregulated gene therapies in Central America. False trials, human testing, covered-up casualties, and Richard had personally signed off on the transfers. Elise's name was listed under secondary authorization. My stomach turned. She didn't just play along. She participated, but something still didn't fit. Why me? Why frame me? Why fire me so publicly? The answer came late one night when I received a call from a blocked number. A raspy voice, older. A woman. You need to know something about Elise. About her mother. What? Elise's mother didn't die in a car crash. That's the story Richard told everyone. But I worked in the house. I saw the bruises. I saw the fights. She was going to leave him. Take Elise and run. Then one night she was gone. Just like that. Are you saying? Richard. He buried the truth. And Elise learned early that survival meant silence. That piece of the puzzle broke me. Suddenly Elise's fear, her weakness, her dependence on Richard, it all made sense. She'd grown up in the shadow of a tyrant. And Dana? She was just the latest mask of control. But it didn't change what Elise had done to me. It didn't change the fact that she had a choice, and she chose ambition over love. I had everything I needed now. I compiled a report, photos, recordings, financials. I used secure servers. I passed the file to a journalist at a major publication under an anonymous tip. I even left breadcrumbs for the SEC. But I wasn't done, because the final reckoning had to be personal. I sent Elise a message. Meet me. 1 hour. You owe me that. She came. I chose the marina where we used to go walking after dinner, before everything turned to stone. She looked older, even though it had only been weeks. Dark circles, shoulders hunched like a woman being slowly crushed. She sat on the bench across from me. I suppose you know everything now, she said quietly. I know you sold me out. For money. For your father. She didn't deny it. Just swallowed hard. You don't understand what it's like to grow up under someone like him. He doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. He builds you a castle, then locks you inside it. You still chose him. I didn't think you'd fight back. Why not? Because you were kind, she whispered. Because you believed in me. And I was tired of being someone's weakness. Her voice cracked then. Her eyes finally met mine. I am sorry, Nathan. I swear to God, I never wanted it to go this far. But it did. I lost you before I even realized you were all I had left. The silence between us stretched wide, aching. And in that stillness, something broke. Not with fury, but with surrender. I loved you, Elise, I said. Still do. But I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. You don't have to, she said. But I'm ready to pay for what I did. Then start by telling the truth. She nodded slowly. I will. Later that night, she walked into the Montgomery estate with a folder under her arm. The same folder I had. My version had already gone to the feds. But hers? It was the first time Elise chose truth over fear. And the beginning of the end. Collapse of the crown. When you live behind masks long enough, the truth becomes the loudest sound in the room. 3 days after Elise walked into her father's mansion with that folder in hand, everything began to unravel. It started with whispers, then headlines. Montgomery Group tied to overseas human trials. Federal investigation launched into Richard Montgomery's holdings. Anonymous whistleblower drops evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and illegal medical experiments. The morning I saw Richard's photo on the front page, wrinkled, caught mid-scowl, I didn't feel joy. I felt justice finally stirring from a long sleep. But it wasn't over yet. Dana was the first to fall. She tried to run, faked a meeting in Denver, boarded a private jet under a fake name. But she never made it out of New York airspace. The feds picked her up mid-flight. When they caught her, she had 3 phones, a burner laptop, and a duffel bag of encrypted drives. Her mugshot was on every screen within 24 hours. I stared at it longer than I thought I would. Not out of pity, but because I wanted to remember the face of the woman who helped destroy my life for sport. Elise called me that night. I'm scared, she said. You should be, I replied. Not with cruelty, with truth. She told me Richard had locked himself in his study. He hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. His lawyers were circling like vultures, and the board had already voted to remove him as CEO. He was a man cornered by his own legacy. The empire he built on threats and deception was finally turning to ash. But the part that shook me most? Elise was subpoenaed. And instead of running, instead of folding, she agreed to testify. I watched the live stream of the preliminary hearing. She walked into that courtroom in a black suit. No makeup, hair pulled back, stripped of all her usual polish. And she told the truth. She told them about Project Helix, about the cover-ups, about Dana's influence, about the day she was told to lie to the man she loved. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for sympathy. She just confessed. I sat there alone in my motel room, the volume low, heart racing. It was like watching a ghost become human again. Richard, of course, denied everything, claimed Elise was unstable, that she was manipulated, that I was behind it all. But they had the receipts. They had the voice recordings, the accounts, the signatures, the body count. And soon, they'd have him too. That weekend, I went back to the house, not to confront anyone. It was empty now, frozen, like a stage after the play is over. Dusty wine glasses still in the kitchen. One of Elise's scarves tossed on the staircase. A wedding photo face down on the floor. I walked through the rooms like a stranger. But there was one place I needed to go, my old office. When I opened the door, something caught my eye. An envelope. Plain. No markings. I picked it up. Inside was a letter. Nathan, you were right. About everything. If I could undo what I did to you, I would. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve your pity. But I want you to know this. My loyalty wasn't to my father. It was to the fear he taught me. But you taught me something else. Strength can be quiet. Love can survive even after it's broken. I'm sorry for the years I wasted. I'm sorry I couldn't protect what we had. But I'm not going to waste the rest of my life running from it. Whatever comes next, do what you need to do. But don't let this make you cold. Because you were always the best part of the story. Elise. I didn't realize I was crying until the ink on the page began to blur. The following week, the Department of Justice formally charged Richard Montgomery and Dana Whitaker with fraud, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and multiple counts related to illegal human experimentation. Their bail was denied. Elise was placed in federal protective custody as a cooperating witness. Montgomery Group? Liquidated. Offices emptied. Accounts frozen. It should have felt like victory. But all I felt was tired and empty. Everything I was fighting to protect, my home, my marriage, my pride, had already been gutted. But in the silence that followed the storm, something began to grow. A small, unfamiliar thing. Peace. Not the peace of triumph, but the peace that comes from finally stopping the lie. The man, they didn't know. They tried to destroy me, but I was never what they thought. I was always more. 6 months passed. The courtroom battles played out like slow-burn dramas, each headline colder than the last. Richard Montgomery sentenced to 24 years in federal prison. Dana Whitaker pleads guilty, facing 18 years after cooperation deal falls through. Elise Montgomery testimony critical in conviction. No charges filed. My name had been cleared. Publicly, legally, completely. The Montgomery smear campaign wiped away. My record clean. Even the media, once painting me as the disgraced son-in-law, now used words like exonerated, betrayed, and survivor. But titles didn't matter anymore, because I didn't want to return to who I was. That man died in the driveway the night Elise shut the door. I moved to a small coastal town in Oregon, rented a modest house near the cliffs. Nothing fancy, just wind, quiet mornings, and salt in the air. I started teaching construction design at a local community college, helping kids who didn't have a shot to get into fancy schools but wanted to build something of their own, something honest. And every so often, I'd walk past a bookstore window or hear a passing conversation mention Montgomery Group like it was a ghost story. They'd whisper about corruption and tragedy, as if the people involved had vanished into myth. But I was still here, living, healing, breathing. Elise wrote me again. This time, not a letter. She came in person. One late afternoon, just before winter really settled in, I opened my front door and saw her standing there. No muck-up, hair tied back, a small scar beneath her right eye didn't recognize. She looked like someone who had walked through fire barefoot and come out on the other side. "Can I come in?" she asked. I nodded. We sat in silence for a while. She looked around my place, like she was searching for a piece of the man she used to know. "Do you hate me?" she finally asked. I took a breath. "No." "Do you still love me?" I didn't speak for a long time. Then I said, "I did, with everything I had. But I think we burned that bridge from both sides." She blinked, and her eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. "That's fair," she whispered. She reached in her bag and pulled out something wrapped in brown paper. "I found this while cleaning out my old apartment. Thought maybe you'd want it." I opened it. It was a photo, us from our wedding, the candid one, where we were laughing so hard I had cake on my tie. It had a crease down the middle, like it had been folded and carried for too long. I stared at it, then at her. "I'm not here to ask for a second chance," she said. "I just wanted to thank you for fighting back, for forcing me to see the truth, and for loving me even when I didn't deserve it." We talked for a while longer, about nothing, about everything. And when she left, I didn't stop her. Some love stories don't end in reunions. Some end with forgiveness. And that's enough. Weeks later, I received a letter from the widow of Samuel Keating. She'd seen the article, saw my name mentioned. She wrote one sentence: "You save more than just yourself." I folded the letter and tucked it into a drawer, because that, right there, was the ending I didn't know I needed. People think vengeance looks like fire. Loud, explosive, violent. But real vengeance? The kind born from betrayal, shaped by pain, and refined through truth? It looks like silence, like walking away, like standing in your own skin without apology. They fired me. She disowned me. They thought they erased me, but they didn't know who I really was. I was never just a husband, or a son-in-law, or a victim. I was the storm they didn't see coming. And now I'm just a man with peace in his hands and nothing left to prove.